Hey everybody. I want to share a kind of a I don't want to say a heart-wrenching story, but a fairly sad story about addiction. I was talking to one of my neighbors tonight. I was cleaning out my garage just a little while ago, getting rid of some old cabinets because I'm replacing them with shelves. So I was putting all my garage cabinets out on the street for garbage pickup, and so of course piqued my neighbor's interest. Free cabinets. And so we were talking, and he says, "Oh, you might have noticed the red car that I've had parked in front of my house for over a week. It's gone now. Is my son's car." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I mean I know your son's car." And he goes, "Yeah, he's been in rehab again. He just got out. He's in a halfway house. It's like it's just yet another round of rehab." And he sounded like really defeated. Like there wasn't even really any anger in his voice or sadness. Just he was just resolved that that his son, like all their attempts to help his son, just had like no return on investment, and just hopeless. Right? It's actually kind of sad because he's my neighbor. He's a he kind of he it looks like he belongs on Duck Dynasty. Just born and raised country boy, corn fed, that kind of stuff. And he introduced himself as Mr. Ken, right? Anybody that says Mr. in their first name, right, is you country. So, but the day we moved into this house, Mr. Ken watched us move in, and right off the bat, when we bought this house, it had a terrible semi-rotted front porch where they had just put old lumber over the front porch because it was ugly, and tried to build a half-assed deck out of wood, and it should just look terrible. So like the first week we were here, I was out there with a crowbar trying to tear this thing off, and here he comes in full beard, ZZ Top beard, full on camo, sunglasses, camo hat, with a chainsaw. And yes, it was a camo chainsaw. I'd never met the guy, so I'm just sitting there with my crowbarring away. And all of a sudden, Duck Dynasty motherfucker comes walking down the driveway. With his Oakleys. And he walks up, he's like, "Let me give you a hand with that." And I said, "Okay." And he just walked up and just chainsaw the ever-loving shit out of my porch and just demolished it in a matter of minutes. So needless to say, we've been friends ever since. So whenever I say that he was defeated, you have to understand just how hard that is to stand next to a man like that and see him so vulnerable. Like he was, God, I could have sneezed and blown him down the street. And so we talked a little bit, and I said, "Well, what was he addicted to?" Or like, rehab. I was like, "What is he rehabbing from?" And I started with the easy one, alcohol, right? I was like, "Was he rehabbing from alcohol?" He's like, No, nothing that simple." I was like, "Oh shit." I was like, "Heroin?" No, nothing that bad. "Cocaine?" He's like, "No, meth." I was like, yes, meth, yes. I've never done meth or cocaine. I tend to like uppers and psychedelics. So I know that if something's poisonous, and it's an upper or a psychedelic, I best just stay away from it because I will end up poisoning myself. So poison's bad, right? So I've never done meth, but I am ADHD and I've taken Adderall for a number of years. And for those who don't know, Adderall is amphetamine. It's dextroamphetamine and regular plain old amphetamine, and there's like one of the other ones in there, right? And meth is methylated amphetamine, or methamphetamine for short. Anything that's methylated is absorbed by your body super fast. Right? It's highly reactive. And so that's why whenever you're distilling whiskey and it starts with the methyl alcohol and then it goes to the ethyl, people always talk about, well, around these parts, right? If you're distilling whiskey and you're running your still, the first fluids to come out are poisonous. That's your methyl alcohol, and you discard that. They call that the trailings, I think. That's why a lot of people that don't know what they're doing distilling alcohol, they don't know to discard the first stuff to come out and watch the temperature. But yeah, anything methylated just hits you like a freight train. But I take Adderall, and so it's unmethylated amphetamine, and so it's a lot more mild by comparison. But still, if I just suddenly go off of it, man, like I'm not feeling very good at all. So, and I shared this with him, I said, well, take Adderall, that's amphetamine. It's not methylated amphetamine, but it is an amphetamine. And so I don't have direct experience with that, but I have fairly valid, I can make the reach, I can make the stretch. So, he was just, talking and just, expressing himself as two men would. And, he said, he says it's every 2 to 3 years, just as he starts to get himself put together, then he relapses. And I said, well, that makes total sense, because after 2 to 3 years, what is getting yourself together? That's taking on all enormous responsibilities, and life gets complicated once everything's all together, and that's when you need support the most. And Russell Brand, God bless Russell Brand, said one of the most profound things I've ever heard. And he said this, he said, addiction is a placeholder for human connection. And just, wow, that's really, really profound, because just from my experience, I've never battled with any kind of major addiction. Just kind of sort of the fun ones, but never to the point of rehab. But it's so true. When you either have no human connections or you have bad human connections, then drugs come in, right? So you either have low quality human connections or no human connections at all. And hence the term hanging out with the wrong crowd, because you have people, but they are not nurturing you in the way you need friends to nurture you. So, and I told him, one of my friends growing up, man, we were close. We were like brothers. I loved him. I still love him. We were really close. And we got our driver's licenses, and I went off to a separate school, and I started hanging out with a different crowd of people that did not do drugs, and he started hanging out with a crowd of people that do. And he's been in and out of jail for the last 20 years. He has 4 kids. Every time he gets out of jail just long enough to knock up the missus, and then it's back to jail, man. Because he always, when you come out of jail, it's like you don't have any, when you first go to jail, usually your friends at the time were the ones that were enabling and encouraging the behavior that got you landed in jail to begin with. So whenever you come out, you can't just be like, hello, convict coming in from the left. Love what y'all have done with the church here. It's hard, especially as an adult, to make new friends. So you fall into this nasty two-sided coin where when you get out, you get lonely and bored. You sort of have this feeling, this stigma of having been in jail, right? So you just know that anytime you meet new people, they're gonna change the way they look at you the day they find out that you've been in jail, right? So it's sort of like, it's kind of hard to make new friends as an adult anyways, let alone out of jail. or even, just with a drug habit or out of rehab, right? Hard to make new friends that way. So, but then there's also something to be said about going back and hanging out with the wrong people, right? Because the next step in that parade is, man, my life really got off track, man. I really fucked up, and I hung out with the wrong people. Those people are bad for me, right? So I don't need to hang out with those people anymore. I'm not going to hang out with those people anymore. So, but you can't make new friends either. So what happens? You end up isolated, right? Because it's like the only friends you know are the ones that got you addicted in the first place. And to try and go find new friends, they ain't gonna last. Most of them. So then what? You end up sitting at home alone. Or having a socially unfulfilled existence with the correct type of social structure. That's why meetings are so absolutely important. And I brought that up with my neighbor too, but I'll get into that. So, and he's, I was talking, he was just defeated. He said, my son's a grown ass man. Every 2 to 3 years, he goes, he just always makes the wrong choices. I said, well, it's not really a choice, certainly not with amphetamines. I said, I know this because I take them. I said, when you take amphetamines, something like methamphetamine or any amphetamine, or hard drugs in general, what makes them so difficult? It becomes something that your body needs, like water. So it's a lot like going without water. Like, how long are you going to get thirsty, right? It's like a slow drying up. Your body needs it, man. So you gotta, it's not so easy. It's not. I know if I go a day or two without taking my Adderall, I'm miserable, and it gets to the point where it's like, shit, I need to take one just to fucking feel normal. And that's never a fun place to be. But, it is what it is. It helps me. It is what it is. I said, you gotta understand that it's not so easy for your son, and I explained, these dynamics to him. And I said, does he go to NA or anything? He's like, nah, man. He goes, he tries and all that. He says, but sometimes it's hit or miss. Not all sponsors are created equal. Some sponsors are really into it, and then there's other ones that just don't give a shit. And he's been on both sides of the coins where the people in NA helped, but then slowly but surely either they went back and used or they moved off someplace else. And so just in the way the social churn or attrition, we'll say, right? Group attrition, is a factor. But, I was telling him, he said, I don't think I can help him anymore. I don't know how anything I can do to help him. It's like nothing seems to help. I was like, no, you do help. Like, you can't cut him off. As man has a physical need. He needs that personal connection. He needs to know, you're his father. Love him. He needs to feel that love, no matter what he does. Because, if you have somebody who's already got a drug problem, they've already got problems. And man, if you pile in feeling unloved by your parents in on top of that, fuck. You're just going to destroy you're going to destroy your child. That's all you can do. And so, keep him in good social company, man. The people are everything. The people you keep around him is going to be what keeps him out of trouble. And he needs meetings for life. He needs people for life. He needs lifetime people that can successfully keep him away from the drugs. And he needs a phone number he can call before he decides to use. Like a sponsor, that's what they're for. And he just kind of looked down. He says, yeah, that's how he ended up using. He said he tried calling sponsor, and the sponsor just never answered his phone calls for a long time. And he got tired of waiting, man, and went down the path again. It's like, he just doesn't learn. I was like, well, try learning to not drink water, man. It's not so easy. It's really not. Clearly so. I was like, it's not. And he goes, oh, I know it's not easy. I was like, I know. I'm here for you, man. It is what it is. So if you know somebody that is battling with addiction, just don't judge them, because they know, believe they are acutely aware of the trail of blood and tears that their addiction leaves in its wake. I mean, they feel feelings too. But it's, and every addict's story is slightly different. I mean, I'm not trying to paint every single addict of every single drug with a broad brush here, but I'm just saying, don't, at a minimum, understand that addicts need people, good people, to feel loved. One, because addiction is, like Russell Brand says, man, and it's so profound. It's a substitute for a human connection. It's a placeholder for a human connection, is what he says. So it's a placeholder for something else. See, when you find out what the addict is missing and you provide them with that, then they no longer need the placeholder. And that's about all I'm going to say about it. So thank you very much for listening. Please like, comment, or share. Hug an addict, adopt an addict, whatever. Or just don't. Either way, hope this helps somebody. So I'll see y'all on the next video.